Hello again, Steve here with a few comments on a bit of a rant I had with my daughter this morning, and is about this. It's a form of fake news, but I call it, as most people call it, or some people call it, wind chill factor. And for those of you who live in colder climates, you will notice every time that you hear the media talk about how cold it is, they'll always reference this thing. They call it with the wind. So if it's minus 20, they'll say with the wind it's minus 30. But what they're referring to is a wind chill factor, which is probably a fairly complex calculation. It probably has a lot to do with what humidity is in the air and so on. But it's very interesting because so many people for so long have been used to quoting this that I honestly believe now that there are many people who don't know. They think that the with the wind quotation mark is the temperature. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a guy who I work with from time to time, and he's lived on the prairies for many, many years, and I haven't lived here for all that long, on and off again for 8 years. Or, yeah, on again, off again for almost 9 years. So he thinks, and he knows that he's got more experience with the prairies than I. And I was telling him that I've only seen minus 40 actually once, mercury minus 40. And then he proceeded to tell me that, oh no, it gets minus 50 here regularly. And I didn't bother arguing with him because it's not worth it. I can sort of read people who are just, they're set in their ways. He's not gonna take any kind of a counter pushback on that. And besides, I don't really care if he believes that. It's bogus. I suspect he's probably never seen minus 50. It is extremely rare. I don't know if there's been a recording in Saskatoon of minus 50. It's extremely, extremely rare. Even so-called wind chill is extremely rare. I've got a chart open here. To get to even minus 50 wind chill, you have to be at minus 40 with a no, wait a minute, minus 30. You'd have to have like 100 km/h wind at minus 30. But here's the problem. When you get really cold temperatures, there's almost never any wind. I remember when I worked at this machinery plant when I first moved to the prairies, and I was aware of wind chill, even though because I lived in northern climates all my life, and I noticed that it's been ramped up more and more lately. This over the last 30 years, probably this wind chill factor, because it's more salacious, right? The more that you can throw out this danger that you got to be careful, the better it is for headlines, basically. And but people always knew that when it's windy, of course, it feels colder. Of course it does, right? That's why we put jackets on and stuff, and we put wind breakers on, right? So anyway, I'd go to work in the morning, and a couple times it was, minus 28, minus 30, whatever in the morning. And the guys would be coming in with their ball caps on, right, with nothing on their ears. It's minus 45 with the wind chill. And I remember saying to one guy, I said, what wind? Right outside the door, there was a flagpole. And when it was that cold, the flag was hanging straight down, crystal clear still. I said, what wind? And I'm thinking in my mind, not trying to be rude to the guy or whatever. I mean, what are you sticking your head out your pickup truck as you're driving down the road? I mean, there's no wind outside. So there's no wind chill factor. It doesn't exist. Yes, they're reporting it. Because they must have some sort of a schedule they go off of. And there's lots of schedules. So the odd time there's a puff, or if you're jogging at 10 miles an hour or whatever, then there's a wind chill factor. But here's the thing. As soon as it goes above, and I'm talking Celsius here, of course. As soon as it goes above 0 degrees, they automatically stop talking about wind chill factor. But it's still there, according to the charts. Like at 0 degrees, if it's blowing, and very often it is, 40 kilometers an hour, it's minus 7 with the wind. It's minus 7 with the wind, man. And but what it is that people are so. I think the reason why people are so corruptible is because people are credulous, for one. Right? They'll think that if something is said by some sort of an authority, it's true. And of course, these organizations, these news organizations, they are in the business of selling advertisements. So the more crazy they can make things look, the more outrageous they can make things look, the idea is the more people are going to look at the headlines and they might see an ad. So why bother telling people that it's only minus 30 when they can tell them it's minus 45, right? And but they know that people aren't going to buy it when it's above zero. When it's above zero, that the wind chill factor is below zero. They're not going to. It sounds too stupid for most people. So what do? So when the temperature goes high, then they flip into another propaganda called Humidex. Like when I was lived near Detroit, they had this Humidex thing. So it's 30 degrees, but it's 40, man, with the Humidex. Well, it's just humid. People can figure that out when it's warm and humid. Yeah, it feels warmer, but it's not warmer, right? But people think it's warmer, and they go around talking about how it's 40 degrees, man. Just like when it's minus 30 outside, it's minus 45, man. You gotta, And meanwhile, I tell them, and they think you have to plug in their car longer because of that. No, it doesn't matter. It's not temperature. It's not temperature. But people are credulous, and people also are very braggadocio, right? So when people travel around, when they go down places, they tell people, yeah, it's minus 40 all the time here. But it's not, right? The average temperature in January, the average temperature during the day is minus 17. That's the truth. But talk to 99% of the people, or I don't know how many people, a lot of people, and they will not know that. Because they listen to the mainstream and they're constantly told about how cold it is with this wind chill factor, and they buy it. I just wanted to put this out because it's an example of one of our tendencies as human beings. One of our tendencies is to be dishonest, but not necessarily deliberately. It's because we're credulous and we're braggadocio, right? We're willing to believe stuff, but we're willing to believe stuff and accept it into our mold if it helps us gain some strength over some people. So if we go visiting somewhere, we can tell people, yeah, man, I can survive minus 45. Wear my sneakers out on the street. No. You've probably never seen minus 45, is the truth. More probably closer to the truth. Like I say, I've been here on again, off again for 9 years. I've seen minus 40 once. It happened again once when I was out of town. So I saw that. I actually went during that stretch when it was hit minus 40 here. I went to Yellowknife, and it was below minus 40 every night, the real thing. And it is very cold when it gets down to that cold. You got to be careful opening the door of your car because the plastic can go click on the handle. The handle can just come off in your hand because everything gets extremely brittle at that cold. I just wanted to put that out, that it's our tendency. We got to guard against it, right? And who was it once said, the beginning of wisdom is calling things by the real name. And if we go around talking about a wind chill factor, we cannot then turn that into saying, with the wind, it's this temperature. No, it's not. The wind doesn't create a temperature, right? The wind, of course, if you're wearing some clothing and wind can get through it, it wicks away the little thermal barrier of heat, of warm air that you have on top of your skin. But that's the same as when you stand in front of a fan when it's really hot in the summer. It doesn't lower the temperature, it just wicks away in such a way that that's an evaporative effect too, but you feel that wind, it feels colder out. And that's why it can be above zero, slightly above zero, and the so-called wind chill factor is minus something. But it doesn't make the air temperature with the wind any colder. And I think this is pretty obvious, but I wanted to put that out because it's our tendency as human beings to be credulous and to be braggadocio. I think we have to guard against that if we are to attempt to be honest. Stevie here again. Great chatting. Oh, by the way, if you like any of this stuff that I'm doing, if you want me to talk about something that I missed or something like that, let me know. But also like, share, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. And apparently that helps to get the channel a little bit more recognition, because I'm riding at about 10 views per video. Talk again soon. Bye for now.